Hello and welcome to the Transformation Project, a podcast and community for women who are looking to transform into the best version of themselves no matter where they are at. A place where you can listen, learn, and laugh along with us as we dive deep into different topics to help you live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled life. Remember, we are all learning here together, and therefore the content and opinions of the hosts and our guests should not be taken as medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Transformation Project. Super happy to have everyone here. Today, we're speaking to a lady who I actually only just met very recently. So her name is Hayley Davis. Hayley is the founder of Finding Your Center women's groups and retreats. From full-time mom to fitness instructor to business owner and now women's facilitator, Hayley creates and holds space for women to find connection, friendship, value, self-confidence, and to truly find your center. So welcome, Hayley.
Thank you for having me.
So good. I'm so happy you said yes to this. I went to one of Hayley's women's circles, and that's how we met. And the story that she shared at the beginning, I'm pretty sure I nudged my mom. My mom came with me, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is what I want to do. This is me." And that's just why I really felt compelled to reach out and to get you to know you more. And I'm super excited for our future circles and stuff. So why don't you take us back? Why did you create your circles and your centers?
Yeah, of course. So going back about, I'm going to say it's all started for me about 6 or 7 years ago, the initial thought, and it took me a long time to put my thoughts into actions. And I was a stay-at-home mum. I had 2 kids. My son was about 3 at the time. My daughter was 7. And I found myself being really stuck at home a lot. Like I would go out and I'd do things, but I wouldn't really see a lot of people. I felt really isolated at home, and I'd know people from the school, and I talked to mums and things like that, but it was so on the surface that I just felt really lonely a lot of the time. And over the years, it just got worse and worse. And I remember turning to my husband one day and I just said, I've never actually experienced a loneliness like this before. And I had my family around me. I had him who I just vent to constantly. And I had my beautiful kids, but I was so craving something else. And I felt really guilty about that, but also, which we shouldn't, by the way. Also, I didn't have those connections of friendships that went deeper than the school playground or the passing by at the shops or the bump into someone at the supermarket. I had grown apart from a lot of my friendships at school. I had kids a lot earlier than any of my friends did, so I was kind of isolated that way as well. And I remember sitting there and I just thought, surely if I'm feeling this way, then someone else is feeling that way. And I thought, is it really weird to ask someone if they want to go have a juice or a coffee? And I was sitting there going, I would say yes. If someone asked me, I would be fine with it. And then so I really sat on this whole thing for a couple of years. And then I finally put the word out once just to have a meetup with some mums and see what the response was like. And I got flooded with yes. Everyone was craving the same thing that I was, but it's everyone was too scared or unsure what the right way to go about it was. It's when you walk into an elevator and everyone puts their head down because it's almost taboo to say hello, right? Or hey, how are you? How was your day? No one does that. So it's oh, is it weird if I will I sound desperate if I go, hey, do you want to go for dinner? I was just to go for dinner and a glass of wine. I was who could I ring to do that? So for me, I also had a really big passion for health and wellness, and I love supporting people that way. And I wanted to do something that combined it all, and I finally got the courage up to start a women's circle, and 2 years later, it's just been booming. So that's a bit of the backstory behind
I
why.
love it. I love it. Well, I mean, I think that's what drew me to getting to know you more, because that was my story really as well. Like, so I'm Canadian living in Australia. I've started my family way younger than any of my new friends here.
Mm.
And it was awesome, and they're lovely, and they're super supportive, and they're always offering to babysit, and but I felt very lonely, very, very lonely. And that's actually why I started looking at working online in the health and wellness space, because I was craving that community. I didn't really realize it at the time, but I was like, I need to do something. I need to do something. And it's not that I needed to do something. It was that because I was actually quite busy trying to raise a child, but it was that I was missing that connection. And that's what I loved about the women's circle. It was, I mean, I went with my mom the first time, so I feel like you had that kind of buddy, but I actually think I would have preferred to go alone, because I met so many amazing women who were just on maybe not the exact same journey, but a similar journey, that were there that wanted to pour into themselves. And I was like, yeah, we don't just want to go and get drunk. Like we actually wanted to, like, it was just a different group of friends. Anyways,
I
and
think
that's
there's a huge move towards that, though, towards women wanting to get together. We talk you hear this like saying, oh, I'm going to fill my cup. I want to fill my cup. And I don't know if filling your cup for many of us is like going out and getting trashed on a Saturday night anymore. I mean, I'm compared to you guys, I'm an old lady. You know, I'm turning, next birthday is a big 50, but you know, I have a lot of friends who are younger, and that's generally even a lot of my daughter's friends who do go out also just want to sometimes just go to the beach, sometimes just go and have a quiet cup of coffee or tea together. And I think for all of us, we all have that weird, I mean, I don't so much, again, because I'm older. I think sometimes you grow out of that thing where you overthink what people think when you ask things or say things, but definitely there's always that awkwardness. And we're all sitting with it. Everybody's like, oh, I just want to hang. I just want to sit with some people that are my people. And where do I find those people? Yeah. And Jess, you know, for you, you've moved from Canada. For me, I had a similar story moving from South Africa. But I see the same thing in a lot of women's kind of community groups online, where they literally just move 2 suburbs away from their friends or their family or their mom. Or they're in the same suburb still, but feel disconnected from their current group, because they may then want to do things that are more nurturing to themselves, and their friends are still on a slightly different journey. So I think that's so super cool. So tell me, I mean, you guys are saying like women's circles. And when Jessica first told me there was a lady come on doing women's circles, I'm like, oh God, are we talking about yoni steaming again? So...
That is not open to yoni steaming.
I am not.
Anyone was wondering.
We've been of this yoni thing has become a joke on here because, yeah. So tell us what happens at a women's circle. If I had to come to one, what could I expect?
Yeah, well, I actually run a few different ones, and the one that just came to, and my big circle, my monthly circle, I open it to a different theme every month. So I usually will bring in a different facilitator dependent on the theme, and it's all to do with different avenues of holistic wellness, and to open your eyes and to more so teach about different ways of healing the body or the mind, in case it resonates with you, because there's so many different healing aspects out there that we don't know about, and this is just one way, and an affordable way to be around those like-minded people, but also learn about what we could do for ourselves and for our family. So I think the one you came to, Jazz, that was about leading with your soul purpose. So we got quite deep into what we actually wanted to do in our life, and maybe what our passions were if we forgot them. And I had a good friend of mine, she's a psychic medium, and she came in and we really got quite deep into discovering what lights us back up, because a lot of us are mums, and a lot of the women who come are mums, and I have all different ages who come along. And I found it really doesn't matter what age you are, there is always something perhaps we have forgotten, or perhaps that we want to bring back into our life. in whatever area that might be. So that was a particular circle that we did. I've got a health scientist and trauma coach coming in teaching EFT tapping. So for trauma healing in all different areas of life, and focusing on blockages and things like that. So I've had a nutritionist before. And so every month has a different theme. And it really depends on what we're doing, and then we sort of facilitate the circle around that. And I always start and finish the circle the same way, and we start in a beautiful meditation, we finish with a beautiful closing, and I always have housekeeping rules of there is no judgment in a circle. So whoever comes to sit with us, you can share whatever you like without any kickback from someone else, without any judgment from someone, with no judgment on yourself either. If you're emotional, that's okay. So whatever happens in the room stays in the room, and it's a completely safe space for you to be you, and whatever happens in the space happens. I really wanted to create that space where you did feel really safe. And sometimes we actually just need to be able to let out the emotion or let out the joy, tell someone what amazing thing happened, because not all of us have someone to tell that to. And I want it to be a group that comes back every month together. So you have that support network around you, and you start, and I've seen it over the last couple of years where there are really beautiful bonds forming now between a lot of the women, and a lot of people do come on their own. And it's really nice to see, because you have friends here. Like you do make the friends, and you have them now. So yeah, you should never worry about coming on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt very safe. I mean, I didn't really say much. I think I was taking a lot of it in, but very safe when, like, even when you guys were just like, do you want to share anything? Like it all felt very safe. We heard lots of really beautiful stories from people. I'm very excited for this month's tapping. I'm very interested in. But I think that's like, I love learning. I love doing new things. So I love that there's always a different theme. But one of the things I really love, I love the idea of just taking 2 hours out for me. No kids, like no phone, just 2 hours of like me. And yeah, maybe it's socializing with the people in the group. Maybe it's just listening. Maybe it's journaling, like, and just learning, but it's you time. And to me, that's what filling up my cup is. And I think all of us need that.
Yes. And definitely in a, I think we feel this guilt about, and it's like a natural thing that comes into us of like how we fill our cup up. But I think more so now, like you were saying before, than going out on a Saturday night and having drinks and things like that. When I look at a night like that, I think, why do we do that in the first place? And generally it's to start to break down the barriers so we can have those conversations. And the more and more you drink, you get deeper into those conversations and all these things come out. Whereas if you can cut out all the drinking and go straight to the circle, and you've got this safe space, you can automatically break down those walls and start talking, then it's really nourishing for our mind and our body. And that is why we're filling our cup, because it's so nourishing for our soul.
Oh, I love that. You're right. You do just skip the alcohol.
Yeah.
And so do you do these at like different times of the day, or are they generally in the evenings, or how do you, because I know with my friends, when I'm like, let's get together, guys, it's the hardest thing. Like, we literally celebrated my birthday with my particular group of friends a month and a half after my birthday, because everybody was like, had different stuff on. So how do you work around that? Or do you not? Do you just go, well, this is when we're having things, and this is when it always is, and we're going to go ahead with that?
So with the monthly circle, it's been the same time for the last 2 years. So everyone sort of knows in their calendar when they can kind of mark it off if they can. So I try not to change it. And it's usually the last Friday of every month, depending if there's a public holiday. And it's at 6:30 p.m, goes for 2 hours. And I also run a weekday circle. So for those who can't come out at night, or maybe have a spare hour during the week, we run them every fortnight on a Tuesday morning after school drop-off at 9:30. And that one's in a different location. It's a smaller group, and I don't have a specific theme around that circle. And it's purely just to come have a cup of tea and we talk. And wherever the conversation goes, that's what we talk about. And it's never been a quiet time. Someone's which is beautiful. And that's just to get something off your chest or to talk about something. And we do a few oracle cards, and it's really lighthearted and casual. So that's a different style of circle as well. And we also have ladies meetups. Sometimes we go out, sometimes we have brunch, sometimes we go for, I usually plan a walk every few weeks. And it just really depends. There's always something going on. So if you can't make a circle, but you still want to meet other people, there's always something happening. We do meditations as well, weekday nights. There is heaps happening.
And is that like at a community center, or where do you?
Yeah, so they're all different places. So we're trying to get around the coast so everyone can sort of make something. The monthly nighttime circles have been held at Helensvale at the Balance Lane Pilates studio. The weekday circles and meditation, so during the day, is held at Hope Island in my co-facilitator's home. And our catch-ups and meetups and walks are all around the coast. We go to Burleigh, we've been more further south. And we've also got workshops and day retreats and things like that at my place and the Scenic Rim, so near Canungra. So we're really trying to really move things around. So there is something for everyone, but I haven't got every week yet, but it's on my list. I need more people.
That's so good. What are like some of the takeaways you hear from other women that join the circles or the weekday meditations or anything like that?
Yeah, more often than not, it is actually, first and foremost, I actually didn't realize I could come and do this by myself. That's number one. So I actually if I have someone new coming, I usually get about 3 or 4 messages prior to them going, oh, I'm really not sure. And they get really unsure about coming. I think because they don't know what they're walking into, but also because it's daunting. Like it can be really daunting when you've been on your own for a long time and like coming into a circle and, you know, what will it be like? That can be really hard for some. And I think after they come, they're like, oh, like that was fine. Like I feel really good. So that's number one. Mm-hmm. Number two would be they just felt like they had time out, whether it was to not think about, they could listen to the whole seminar or whatever we're doing, but it was like time out, not having to answer to kids or husband or nothing, like weren't thinking about work. It was just they were there to be themselves. And then number three, I think it's more about they're really interested in different avenues of the holistic wellness, or some of the circles I make quite spiritual, not all of them, but they're just like dipping their toe into what's out there and what else they could perhaps learn about. But no one ever mentions friendship straight away, but I see them forming. And then when people start coming to the circle, they go straight to them, they sit down, start talking. So I see that more so than they do, I think. But yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I love it.
But it's the self-doubt. There's so much, we have so much self-doubt, so much. Yeah,
because I don't actually know, if my mom wasn't here, I don't know if I would have jumped on coming. So I had been to the studio before to do Pilates. And so I was on the Facebook page, and I don't know why, but women's circles had been coming up, maybe since we did the podcast and we've had someone else on explaining women's circles, but I did definitely with Yvette think they were going to be like about yoni steams, which I'll try anything. I was totally fine with it, but I was kind of like, yeah, like what am I going to expect? So I just said to Mom, like, you're visiting from Canada. Did you want to come? And she was like, yeah, I'll do whatever you want, as long. And we just spun it as like, this is my birthday present. This is what I want to do for my birthday. And she was like,
your mom gave you a lot of those kind of birthday presents, honestly.
She's done a lot of weird stuff. I'm very lucky. She's done a lot of stuff for me. This is the least weird for sure.
Well, when you say women's circle, like I'm in my head, because I've never been to a women's circle. So I'm like, what? Or maybe I have. Like my picture in my head is a whole bunch of women sitting around like in a circle on the ground. Like,
yeah.
Is that, or is it more like what you see in like, you know, the American movies where they all go to like the AA and they're all sitting in a chair and they're in the circle and they're like, who's new? And introduce yourself to the group and you get to speak now. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that's for people where I'm really trying to get down to by the end of this podcast, I would love somebody to know exactly like, this is what it's going to be like, and this is what I can expect, so that it can kind of break down that initial barrier for them of like, what am I sitting on the floor? Am I holding hands? Like, how close do I have to get to the people next to me? Are we singing? Are we chanting? Do I have to hug someone? Like, all of the, that's what comes up for people, right? Like,
well, I'm not going to lie.
Am I wearing the right thing? Do I need to take my shoes off?
Oh, yeah, there are circles, and this is what I guess you have to find what's right for you. So there are definitely circles out there who are very, very spiritual, or there's so many different types. And what happens so traditionally with a circle, we sit in a circle because ancient tradition, that was what you did in community. So when you're eating, you'd pass it around in a circle, depending on the culture, but that is why you sit in circle, and it's a respectful thing as well, and you're open to hear everyone, instead of just sitting like a schoolroom in chairs or whatever. So that is why we sit in circle. There are very spiritual circles. There are very different types of circles where perhaps you are dancing and chanting and doing all of those things. Mine are not that way specifically. Because I don't enjoy doing that. So I've made a circle for what I enjoy, and then I will attract people who are very like-minded to me, or who are wanting to experience something else. So my circles were purely made first and foremost for connection, and then I bring in the other things from there. So I know that some circles are made for the spiritual component, or whatever they're doing, but for my circles specifically, they are about connection first, and that goes with all of our events and meetups. So that's what it's about for me. So women's circle in general, they're all going to be different. There is not one alike, and there are a lot on the coast, and that's a beautiful thing to see. I think that's great when you see so many women coming together, and there are so many different types, because we're not all the same. And we should really encourage each other. So, but yes, don't think when you hear women's circle that it's always going to be like that. You really have to sort of look at maybe the description first, or if you're not sure, contact the facilitator to get a little bit more info to make sure it's the right feel for you.
Yeah, because exactly what you said. I've seen a lot of women's circles, and no, I wasn't going to get up and like dance or do anything like. Yeah, and I'm not overly spiritual. It's something I'm like dabbling into. So I have one woman who has invited me numerous times to her women's circle, and I've seen photos, and I'm like, it just feels weird still for me. Like maybe one day, but not right now. So yeah, I agree. I think definitely either word of mouth or read the description, look at some photos. But you sit in a circle. But no, there's nothing. I think it's funny, Yvette, that you've thought of all those things. None of those things went through my mind before.
Did you see how quickly I did it too?
You had so many, like, no holding hands, no hugging, like, unless you wanted to, like, unless people were friends and connected and stuff. But no, it wasn't. And it wasn't like AA where it's like, oh, Jessica, you've never been here before. Like, tell us about yourself. Like, no, everything was like, did anyone want to share? Nope. Yeah. Moving on. Yes.
I think for me, I've just been involved in networking, I guess, and connecting people and doing different events and inviting people to things. And so I've heard all of that. Like literally, I've had people who haven't wanted to come to something because they're scared they're going to take their shoes off and they haven't had a pedicure. Like for real. Like so those are things that was easy. You know what I mean? People, and I think it's so funny how even though we may crave something so deeply, connection, friendships, finding other people like us, we also can very quickly find those little tiny excuses that hold us back from something that could be wonderful. Like you have no, like, you know what I mean? Just that small thing. So that could stop people from going. And I think bizarrely, after the last 2 years where we've, so many people have just been locked away in their houses, you would think that now everybody's out and about. People are like, let's go. We're getting out everywhere. But what I've found is almost the opposite. People really are like cloistered now, and You know, we're having situations where my daughter does some like work as a paramedic at some big festivals, and they have festivals, for example, where they're expecting thousands and thousands of people because that's how many tickets have been sold. So these people have paid, they've paid for it, they've got the tickets in their hands, and on the night, like a third rock up. They literally threw their money away and then chose on the night not to go. So I find it odd. I find it's such a contradiction. And so I think what you're doing, Hayley, is amazing. And I think like the more that we have of people getting together, different people, different ages, different experience levels, and, you know, supporting each other and sharing their knowledge and their experience, right? Because what I've been through in my life and different things I've experienced, Jess may not have, Hayley, you may not have, but and you know what I mean? And you've done things that I haven't done, even though I'm older than you. So that knowledge is just, doesn't matter how old you are. It's really about where you've been in your life experience, and to get more people together to share that, I think, is just the coolest thing. Yeah. But we sabotage ourselves with silly things. Yeah. So don't do that.
Yeah, stop doing that.
Stop doing that.
Hayley, what would you say to someone if they're looking for their community, they're looking for their tribe, they don't, you know, maybe they've looked at women's circles or different community groups and they're not finding anything that they love, and they're intrigued by like getting a group of people together like you have? Like, where do you start?
I would just, like, we have to stop thinking with our heads. Honestly, our ego gets in the way and it stops us doing amazing things, and then we start making stories up of what people think. So it's really not true. If you just lead with your heart and really feel through it first, so if you're not sure about a certain place or workshop or whatever, really feel into it and just like see. If you go somewhere and you get an instant, you know, that reaction that you get when you don't mesh well with someone else, and that's going to happen because we're all so different, and you get that initial feeling. Like if you get that feeling and you go into somewhere, don't stay, or go somewhere and just stick it out. Like it's only 1 hour, 2 hours of your time, and you might surprise yourself. Like just really put yourself aside and just do it. I think say yes and think about it later is one of my mottos I live by daily. And if you're looking to start a group, you have to just not think about it. If you're craving something like that, go with what you feel, and I guarantee you someone else will feel the same way. And the people who will be there are the people who are meant to be there. Mm-hmm. You will always get 1 or 2 people who don't like what you're doing, or who are not going to sit well in your group, but that's just part of life. You don't get on with everyone, and that's, I think, one thing you just learn over the years, and that's okay. You open your doors to everyone, but those people who are meant to be there will find their way in. And one thing, just touch on what you said earlier about sharing different things in the group. One thing that I really love to see, and it always happens in circle, is that usually the people who are meant to be there will be there, and they usually have a lot of the same things they talk about, and it really helps giving each other non-judgmental advice. Hearing it from someone else, but it's usually always happens at the same time, and I love how the universe works that way. But that's another beautiful thing. So I'm just saying, if you're sitting on the fence and you're not sure, like, do it anyway. What's the worst that's going to happen, honestly?
It's an experience, right? Like, even if, well, I don't know, like you said, like you don't love it, like it's an hour of your time, like, or you're nervous about it, like just sit through it and see what you get out of it. It's still a learning thing either way. Yeah. But I agree with what you said. I did notice there were a couple similar stories to the last circle. Like in the last circle I went to, there was a couple women that had very, very similar stories. I was like, wow, what are the chances?
Yeah. And I think too, if you can muster up the courage to go by yourself, I actually find that better, because you immerse yourself in the experience more. If you have a friend and they're with you, you kind of like sort of feed off each other and see if they're talking, then I'll talk. They don't, then I won't. Like, it's very much that way. So I actually prefer people to come on their own if you're so nervous or not, because you might surprise yourself, or you don't have to do anything. Like, you just sit there, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I think it's interesting too, because so many people will say things also to complete strangers. You confide things that are happening with themselves to complete strangers, that they would never tell people who know them. And that's another thing we often see in community groups. They'll say, nobody knows this about me, but can you guys help me with this? Complete strangers that they'll share, but they haven't told like their sister.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that I had that because the circle I went to was with my mom, and I'm fine with talking. Like I don't get nervous sharing things. And it's funny, I never once put my hand up to share anything just because mom was there, and not that I was hiding anything, but it was just, I guess, kind of what you said, like she's not putting her hand up. I'm not going to put my hand up. Oh, other people did? Sweet. Yep. Great.
Yes.
I'd love to know, Hayley, through the various circles that you have done, like what's the biggest thing that you've learned maybe about yourself or taken away about yourself and your life from those things that you've done with other people?
Yeah, I think, oh gosh, the biggest thing for me was to learn my self-worth initially, and also to put myself aside because this is for a bigger purpose. That's been the biggest lesson for me. So I'm quite sensitive to other people's comments and energy, but I have grown a much thicker skin doing this. Only I think last week I was accused of like starting a cult, and I don't even know where that comes from, but I laughed about it because it's so far from anything that I do. But give me that 2 years ago, I probably would have broken down and cried. So I know that when I start to get comments like this, that I'm making an impact. So for me now, it drives me further. But I think really coming out of your head and away from that self-doubt, because that's what our ego does, looking at the bigger purpose of what's needed in our community, that's been my biggest lesson.
Oh, I love this. I love it. Well, I mean, you drew me into the circle. I was like, I'm coming to everyone after, after the first one. It was awesome. I'm super, super excited to attend more. And I guess pretty much just everything you said, I'd like be a part of that community, grow, have the space, like meet new people who are interested in the same thing. I love it. I love it. I love what you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Love it. I think I told you in our first circle, I've had this vision of a retreat that keeps coming up in my meditations and stuff like that. And I feel like it's tweaking a little bit, and it might not necessarily be a retreat. Maybe it's like I need to do more of this kind of stuff, like the circle and yeah, build the community and stuff of people that way. So you have inspired me. I love it. Thank you.
Oh, that's so well, thank you. And you'll find with building a retreat, it'll keep changing until it doesn't, and you'll know exactly what you need to do. So just sit with that. Don't force it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that because it's changing a lot right now. So it's not ready.
Yeah.
Love it. Hayley, thank you so much for coming on our podcast today. If people want to get a hold of you or like look at your circles and your other events, what is the best place for them to find you?
Social media mainly. I'm terrible with website inquiry, I'm not going to lie. So either Facebook, so just Finding Your Center, Women's Circles and Retreats. I've got Instagram, it's Hayley_Find Your Center. Could be another underscore in there, I'm really not sure, but if you just search it, something will come up. And I've got the Facebook group as well, which all the events get posted into.
Perfect. We'll put all that in the show notes. We'll find.
Thank you. I'm terrible with tech.
We'll find your links. We'll put them in anyway.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today, and we hope you've taken something away. We hope that this has made you a little braver to get out there and meet some more people like you, find your tribe, as we always say. And we hope that wherever you are in the world, you are having an absolutely incredible day. And we can't wait to talk to you next time on the Transformation Project. Thank you for listening in to this episode of the Transformation Project. The Transformation Project is not just a podcast, we're also a community. We're a collective of like-minded people all around the world seeking to live their best life and raise each other up. We're looking to support you, set goals, get healthier, connect with yourself and others at a deeper level, and better understand yourself and the world around you. We're always looking to link arms with like-minded people wanting to create more out of life. You can connect with us via our website, which is www.thetransformationproject.net.au. Email us at support@thetransformationproject.net.au, or simply listen in to one of our podcast episodes, which can be found on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can even watch some of our episodes on our YouTube channel, simply called The Transformation Project. Please like and subscribe to make sure you hear all the incredible shows and guests we have lined up. If you have any feedback or any comment, we would love to hear those, as well as any ideas or guests that you think we should be interviewing in future. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Transformation Project.